Hey beautiful souls, welcome back to Fanny with Jessie, the life coach. I am Jessie. For those of you, if it's your first time here, I am a life coach and we tackle all types of self-care, self-love, just getting in alignment with ourselves and getting organized so we can live our best life. So guys, what are we getting into today? So today we are going to be talking about loneliness, understanding it and how to tackle it. We're going to be diving in and actually taking it apart, really understanding what loneliness is and how to tackle it. So this whole idea stemmed from a subscriber. She actually reached out, spoke a little bit about her personal situation and said that she was coming out of a toxic relationship, and she wanted to know how to combat loneliness, like how to be alone without feeling lonely. And I was like, so she asked me if I could do a video on it. And I was like, for sure, I got you, girl. One thing when we dive into any topic, especially when we're trying to get our mind right, is that we really have to understand the concept of it and really understand the whole root of the problem to really dig it up so we can bring it out and heal it, right? We can flip that energy. So we're gonna start with today's video. So today's video is gonna be about understanding loneliness as a whole. And I'm gonna do maybe 2 or 3 videos on this. And then I'm gonna, of course, actually do a video specifically tackling what she wanted to know, which was how do we focus on ourselves after coming out of a toxic relationship. So girl, your video is coming, but this is gonna be one of, part 1 of a 3-step process when we deal with loneliness. One thing we really need to keep in mind when we think about loneliness is that anybody and everybody gets affected by loneliness. I think that's a key point we have to make, and it's so important to make it because these are things we don't talk about. It's almost like our feelings and emotions and our mental health and things that boggle us down on an emotional level. Those things are taboo. We don't talk about it. It makes us feel weak. It makes us feel powerless. It makes us feel unworthy for some reason. And we really gotta stop and change that. We gotta change that stigma about mental health. We gotta start giving in and nurturing our mental health just like we do our physical health and everything else. We eat right, we exercise, we do all this stuff for our body and to maintain ourselves, but we never want to talk about how to maintain our mind. And then if we talk about things like loneliness, it almost makes us feel like we're weak, that's not the move. We need to start changing that, especially for 2021. We're in a new year and we need to start doing things differently. If last year taught us anything, is that the way we are doing things, it is not working. It is not working. On the surface, it looks like it's working, but it's all a facade, it's all an illusion, right? So that's the first thing I want to say. As human beings, we all go through a period of loneliness. So that's one thing to remember, including myself. I actually spoke on a recent video of after losing my mom, how one of the things I really felt when it was loneliness. And it was kind of a new feeling for me. I've been alone, but I never felt really lonely. There's times that I felt lonely, but it was just a moment. But this time around, it really hit me. And it was a struggle for me. And I had to combat that and dig myself out of it. And I was open about it. I was honest about it. And one of the reasons I did that is because I feel like so many people go through this feeling and we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. So let's talk about it today. Today is going to be the first day that we start changing things, really changing things. So I think the first thing to really understand about anything, like I said, we got to get down to the root, is understanding the concept of it. So let's talk about what is loneliness. So first and foremost, loneliness is a state of mind. It's a state of consciousness. It starts in your mind. A lot of people think it's an emotion, but it's actually not. It's a state of mind, starts within your consciousness, that creates an emotion. It creates a physical response. And that emotional response is sadness. Sadness is an emotion. Loneliness is not. Loneliness is a feeling. A feeling stems from the mind. So that's how you really have to think about it. A feeling stems from the mind, and emotion stems from the body, something that you can outwardly see. And when we're feeling lonely, some of the things that we're gonna feel is we're gonna feel isolated. We're gonna feel outcast. We're gonna feel like rejection. We're gonna feel as if no one is there for us, no one is around, no one understands. We're going to feel alone in that state of mind. We're gonna feel like we're forgotten. We're gonna feel like we're overlooked. We're gonna feel empty inside, right? And one thing to really keep in mind, why is it so important that I emphasize like what loneliness truly is, like meaning that it's a state of mind, is because we create it. We create it. Everything starts within our mind. And that is so important to understand. Whatever we are feeling, we are responsible for, and we are capable of changing, right? So that's why I stress so much the meaning of what is loneliness and why it is truly important for us to understand it, right? Because we, like always, are responsible for us, and we are the only ones that could change that. We're the only one that could take that action to change a feeling, because we are the one who created it. Thus, we are the only one who can change it. I'm gonna be sharing some tips on how we can get out of that state of mind. Remember, it all stems from your mind. Get your mind right, get your life right. So tip number one is going to be about surrounding yourself with people that you love or that love you. It's so important to do this when you feel lonely, because we often forget, like when we go through loneliness, we often forget that we are not alone. Right? We're so boggled down by our emotions. That's all we believe, because it's a state of mind. And because of that, anything that interjects that state of mind, like anything that opposes that and shows that we're not alone, we tend to reject it. We tend to block it, which actually just festers in the loneliness. Like it continues the cycle. So it's so important, in order to break that cycle of loneliness, that we actually start surrounding ourselves with people who are there for us, people who support us, people who are like telling us we are not alone, you are not alone, right? So that is so important. So, get around people that you love, get around people that make you feel generally good about yourself, people that love you. Surround yourself in that kind of atmosphere. It's gonna help you break down that loneliness. And in saying that, I know that right now we're still in a pandemic, we're still, dealing with COVID. And that stemmed to a lot of loneliness that a lot of people are feeling now, especially if you live alone, because we can't go out. We can't go out pretty much and socialize the way we used to, or if we do it, we're not doing it to the same caliber that we used to doing it, right? It's not as frequent, and we have all these restrictions, and so it doesn't feel the same. Or people are just fearful of getting sick, so they're just not doing it at all, right? So, you have to think outside the box, right? A restriction is never a restriction. That's how I see life, right? You have to think outside the box. You can't go through the window, you go through the back door. You can't go through the back door, you go through the side door. You can't go through the side door, you go through the garage. In saying that, what am I saying? That you look for different ways of doing it, different methods. Just because you can't do it one way doesn't mean there's not other ways to do it, right? So if you can't actually see people, like, you can't interact with them, face to face, there's other ways, especially now these days, the technology is so infamous. We can get on FaceTime, we could do group chats. There's so many different ways of being able to feel as if you're not truly alone if you can't see the person face to face, right? So definitely think outside the box and use those methods if you are a person who's actually feeling that loneliness at this time. My second tip for anyone who's combating loneliness is to start getting yourself involved in volunteering projects or passion projects. That goes a long way. A lot of the times when people feel lonely is because they truly do not have a purpose. So I remember when my mom was alive, right directly after her sickness, she had to retire. She had to take early retirement. And one thing she would always tell me is that she felt lonely. And one of the reasons for that is because she wasn't passionate about anything. She didn't take her time, like the time that she spent at work and doing all these other things, like that was gone, we were grown and out of the house, and even though we were around her, we couldn't spend 24 hours of our day with her. We had jobs, we have our own relationships, we have our own households to take care of, so we couldn't be there all the time. And one of the reasons that stemmed her loneliness is because she was not directly involved in something. When you get involved in a project, you volunteer, it makes you feel alive. It makes you feel invigorated. It makes you feel excited, something to look forward to. So if you're really feeling lonely, the best way to combat that is to get yourself involved in volunteering. You know, it's a great way to get yourself around new people, different kinds of people, right? People who have the same passion, people who are inspired to do the same things. Not only that, but when you are of service to anyone, you know, that comes back to you tenfold, and it makes you feel good when you're helping someone find their happiness, helping someone find their joy, helping, you know, people find resolutions to something that they could have not done without you. It really, really helps you develop that self-esteem within you, because you feel like you're doing something for good, right? And that's just one aspect of, you know, volunteering. And if you don't, you're not really like a person who wants to volunteer, get yourself involved in passion projects. Passion projects are amazing, right? Because when you get yourself in something that you're so passionate about, you start opening up to gifts and capabilities that you had that you did not even know you had, right? It's all about your passion. It's going to make you feel alive. It brings back this fire within you, within your life. So that's one great way to give back, right? Like, I'll give you an example. For me, for instance, right? I come up here, I do these videos, I'm on YouTube, right? I get nothing from YouTube, not me. You know, there's some people who get back, they get, you know, commissions for the videos that they put out there, but it takes quite a long time to do it. Right now in my status, I don't get anything from it, right? But it's a passion project for me. And I recently spoke, you know, in the beginning of the video about a female who actually reached out to me, and her message was all about gratitude. She was thanking me, telling me how she just came out of this toxic relationship. She suffers from depression and low self-esteem, and she was thanking me because she said she found me in one of her lowest times and how my videos impact her, and she felt that they were really helping her. So she actually wanted to thank me for, you know, what I have done to help her find her new path, right? You know, seeing the beauty and the love within herself and helping her heal and get on her journey. And I can't tell you how amazing messages like that they feel. You know, it makes me feel just happy that I'm actually able to reach a person and help them, right? And I'm getting nothing out of YouTube, right? There's nothing holding me here to do. For each of my videos, I have to do research. I have to, you know, meditate and really, you know, go with inside. I can bring insight to you to help you move forward on your journey. So, like I said, if you don't have anything that you're volunteering for, or you don't have a passion project, that's gonna be a big key in getting yourself out of loneliness and doing something for you that also gives back to another. My third tip is to join a support group or a group with like-minded people, right? So a lot of times when we suffer from loneliness is because we have been impacted on a grand scale of something outwardly, like something that's outside of our circumstances that just impact us. What I mean by that? Well, an example of that would be like a death, a loss of a job, a move, a loss of a relationship, right? These are the major kind of things that impact us, or, you know, the loss of mobility within our health, or our health has declined in a certain way. And a lot of times when you're going through certain circumstances of a big caliber, like let's say for instance health, right, or a loss of a loved one, and you're feeling so incredibly lonely, a great thing you can do is join a support group for the same type of people that have been impacted in the same type of way. It makes you feel not so alone. A lot of times when people go through those kind of losses or a big shaking of their foundation within their life, they feel targeted, you know. A lot of times when, you know, you go through that type of loneliness, you feel like, why me? Like, why did I have to get sick? Why do I have to have, you know, cancer? Why do I have to have, you know, this lung disease? Why do I have to be the person who lost their husband, their wife, their spouse, whatever it may be, right? You feel targeted. You feel like, why me? Why me? So a good way to kind of get out that feeling and seeing that it's not only you, there's so many others going through what you're going through and you're not alone, is to join a support group of others who are facing the same circumstance as you, so you could understand that you are not alone. It's not only you, other people are going through what you're going through, and they could understand it on a deep, profound level, right? It's a little different when you talk to someone that hasn't been through a certain circumstance, or they don't know what it exactly feels like, so they try their best to be empathetic and compassionate and to try to understand where you're coming from, but sometimes they just don't get it, right? I think a lot of people can relate to that, right? But when you're around others who've been through the same thing or who's going through the same thing that you're going through, you feel heard. You feel like you're not alone. You feel like I can get through this, or maybe they can show you how they have come through to the other side from loneliness to feeling whole again, right? So it's so important to be able to find a support group. Let's say you're not going through something major like that, but you just feel lonely. You just feel like you're alone, and maybe you don't have many friends or something of that sort, or maybe the company that you keep is just not fulfilling, and you want to be around like-minded people that think like you or into the same things. Well, you can easily join a group with like-minded people. Like if you're passionate about traveling, join a travel group. If you're passionate about cooking, join a cooking group. Meetup.com is a great place where you actually can find groups of like-minded people. I remember when I moved from like the boogie down South Bronx, and then we moved to the North Bronx, and then I moved all the way upstate, like up New York. And it's all New York, but it's very different from like the city to like the country living, and that's kind of pretty much how, the transition where I went from. And when I first moved, I didn't really know anybody in my neighborhood. The only person I knew was my sister. She was about 10-15 minutes away, but my sister, she was married, she had her own child, her job, her own friends. So I felt lonely. I felt mostly bored, to be honest, All my friends were in the city. It was a long commute, and one thing I decided to do to combat that is to actually open my own meetup group. So that's exactly what I did. So if you feel, invigorated enough and you feel like, I can't find a group that I like, well, go out there and create your own. That's what I did. I was like, I'm taking matters in my own hands. I don't like these groups, so I don't like their rules, and I want to create my own rules, and I want to, be my own leader, and I want to make my own events. So that's exactly what I did. I created a group based on events of exploring, because I like to explore, I like to travel, and to this day I actually still have a group. I still have an all ladies travel group. So whatever you're not finding out there for yourself, if you can't find it, go out there and create it. Okay, create it. It will keep you so stimulated and so busy you won't even know what loneliness is anymore. And my fourth and last tip to combat loneliness is to stop isolating yourself. So one big thing that we go through when we feel lonely is to push people away. I know I'm guilty of this. I usually push people away in a different manner. I actually need my time to be able to reflect, go within, do introspection, feel my feelings, but I need to do that alone. But I also know how to come back, right? So some people, they do it and they don't know how to get back out there. They stay within that insulation cycle, right? They stay in that kind of like that hermit mode. So you have to know when to pull back and kind of step back into your life and get back into the things that you love and around the people that matter and are worried about you and love you. But a lot of people don't know how to do that. So one thing a lot of people truly do is they truly isolate themselves. And when you have that state of mind that no one cares, no one understands, I'm by myself, no one loves me, no one cares for me, I'm truly all alone, and you believe that, and it becomes a belief system, a pattern within you. Anytime, like I said, you get that opposing view that someone's like, hey, I'm inviting you here, or hey, I'm calling to check up on you, and you feel that so ingrained in your soul, like that's not true, you are alone, you're gonna push that. You're gonna keep on pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And what's bad about that is that you take that ingrained feeling and you make it into a pattern and a belief system for you, that there's no one who cares, there's no one around, there's no love, there's no opportunity. You just isolate and you dwell more in that feeling, and you just create a whole cycle of it. You want to be careful with that, because you don't want to nurture the feeling of loneliness, and a lot of people do that. They'll push people away, continue to push people away, and nurture this feeling over and over and over and over. So you want to be careful with that. You want to be careful of blocking people, circumstances, and things that are trying to come in to combat that loneliness. You got to be able to leave with an open heart, to be willing to be able to see and acknowledge and embrace people who are trying to come in, right? Circumstances that are trying to come in. So, because sometimes it's not people, it's just the universe actually showing us that we are not alone. They're bringing in beautiful circumstances to change that feeling for you. But a lot of the times, like I said, when you are feeling that way, you're going to block it and you're going to push it and push it and push it away. If you're healing from something, it's always great to go in, spend time with yourself, think about it, but you know what? Don't stay there. This is like becoming like my favorite line on my channel. You cannot stay there. That's another point I want to make about loneliness. Loneliness, as we stated, is a state of mind, is a state of consciousness, right? So what does that mean? Well, our minds are forever changing. Emotions are forever changing. It's a feeling that creates an emotional response, right? Sadness. But you're not gonna feel sad forever. You are capable of changing that, but you are the only one able to do it for yourself. So you have to remember when you're in your deepest, darkest times of loneliness, that it is not going to be like that forever. It's not gonna stay like that forever, right? Feelings, emotions, they're forever changing. They're forever evolving, right? They are not fixed. Emotions are not fixed. They fluctuate, they change, they get better. Sometimes we feel happy, sometimes we feel sad, right? And like I said, feelings are usually stemmed from outside circumstances. So as soon as that outside circumstance sees, it dwells down, it stops, guess what? Your feelings, your emotions are going to change. So you always have to remember that, right? You can't stay there. You won't be able to anyway, because it's just the human nature. You won't be in that forever. So you have to keep that in mind, right? So whenever you're feeling lonely, just remember you're capable of changing that, but it's gonna take action on your part. Loneliness is not anything that's fixed. It's not a constant in your life. It's forever changing, and you are capable of changing that for you. So always remember that. And one last thing to keep in mind about loneliness is that it's always purposeful. I always say everything has a purpose. Even the bad things and bad emotions that happen within our lives. Loneliness is a way of putting a spotlight onto our lives to show us what is not fulfilling for us. There are people who could be around 8,000 people and still feel lonely. You could be in a relationship and still feel lonely. So what is that telling you, right? It's very different from being alone. Remember, it's a state of mind. So it's actually showing you a spotlight of saying, hey, guess what? Hey, something's not right here. Because if you're around other people and you are in a fulfilling relationship and social relationships just in general, like friends and things like that, if they were truly fulfilling, you wouldn't feel lonely. So it's putting a spotlight on your life, on you, to show you there's something not right here. We gotta fix something, right? So let it be what is meant to be. And a lot of people don't think about it this way, but that's exactly what it is. A spotlight into what needs to be fixed, what needs to be corrected, what needs more nurturing, or maybe you just need more of something, right? When we feel lonely, we're craving social interaction. So if you're around a lot of people and you still feel lonely, that's because there's something that needs to be corrected. There's something not meeting your needs. So always remember that, right? Fix your mind, you fix your life. So guys, that's all I have for today. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a few videos on loneliness because I feel like it's such an important topic, especially what's going on right now in our world, you know, with COVID. We actually have to be isolated. Our social interactions are not what they used to be. A lot of people live alone. So I think those are the people who feel isolated the most, and they might be suffering from loneliness. Or they might not be, right? Because like I said, loneliness is a state of mind. It's not a state of being. Just because you're alone doesn't mean you're lonely. And that's going to be one of my next videos of the difference of, you know, being alone versus loneliness. And then another follow-up I'm going to have is how to combat, you know, loneliness when you are trying to be alone after coming out of a toxic relationship. So guys, check back for those videos. You don't want to miss it. Like I said, if you haven't subscribed, definitely click subscribe. Hit that bell button if you like what you're hearing, because we're going to do so much more. It's a new year. We're going to talk about getting in alignment. We're going to talk about getting ourselves right. We're going to talk about, you know, getting organized in all aspects of our life. So there's going to be a lot coming up. There's going to be an exciting year, right? So I will see you in my next one. Bye.